When did you go to bed before you were talking to me?
Went to bed at 9 o'clock this morning and got up at around noon-ish.
That is not a full sleep.
I grew up just like any other kid in Newport, Newfoundland. Around, on, and sometimes even in the water. I grew up wanting to be a sailor, just like my father. I eventually sailed on ships all over the world for 20 years. Then I met this guy, Greg Wells. He bought a 100-year-old church in my hometown. Along with a great team of people, there's some very special things happening there. My name is Ryan Gates. This is my hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. This is Downey's Bank, Silly Cove Records podcast. All right, everyone, welcome back. This is episode, we're into episode 3 of the Downey's Bank podcast. So, got a familiar face back. I guess Greg is probably going to be a reoccurring theme here. I didn't really intend it to be that way, but we got lots to talk about. So,
I'm so sorry. I apologize, everybody.
Yeah, me too. But we made a big announcement today, this morning actually. So we're a couple hours into it now. We've signed another recording artist for Silly Cove Records. Again, completely. We started with Courtney Wicks, and we've signed Jeremy Harnum. That'll be our next album that we're hopefully get rolled out. And Yes Officer, of course, that's his band. And now we've announced the signing of Summer Bennett. I'll give everyone a little rundown in case you live under a rock and never seen our original post. Summer, she's originally from Paradise, Newfoundland. She's a high school student at Mount Pearl Senior High. Singer, songwriter. There's not a ton of stuff out there on her. If you go Googling and everything else, you'll find there's been a few interviews. I think there was a podcast that she did over in the fall with our good friend Zach Snow out in Corner Brook at one of the Music and L festivals. But otherwise, she's relatively unknown and kind of new to the scene because, again, she's so young. She's won a litany of awards in the last 24 months, which I guess culminated with winning the Newfound Talent competition, which is always a big deal every year. In that competition, of course, you get the opportunity to get some funding to record a song, record your first music video, whatever it is you choose to do with that funding. And that's exactly what she did. Summer recorded a song called Carsick. You can catch it on YouTube, guys. Just Summer Bennett Carsick. She's released a music video associated with the song as well. And it's an amazing tune. She's quite a talented young writer. And her abilities to also translate that into listenability, I guess is the right word, when it comes to how she wants her songs to be heard, is, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm no expert at this stuff, I guess what I got Greg here for, but as far as I'm concerned, it's world class. Certainly top end what we're used to seeing here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So, got Greg here. I want to talk to Greg about about basically kind of how we come to stumble on to Summer and get his get the story from the initial reaction, because I'm always sending Greg music of some sort or another. Sometimes we're just chatting about music in general, not even Newfoundland music, but I had heard Summer's release after she won the Newfound Talent competition, and I was gobsmacked, which means absolutely nothing generally. I've liked things before in the past that other people don't, and vice versa. I've heard things a lot of people like, and I just don't. But I was absolutely gobsmacked with the song. I said I got to send this to Greg for his ear and get his take, because again, as everyone knows, Greg's worked with a lot of world class pop artists. So I took the track and I sent it off to Greg. I think it was probably early December. I didn't really think much of it because Greg always gets back to me on everything I send him. Just sometimes it takes longer than others because we have lives outside of Silly Cove Records, obviously, both of us. So Greg, you want to walk through the story of your first time here in Summer?
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan, you do a couple other things outside of Silly Cove Records.
Yeah, one or two
things. I know really, like, you're just kind of sitting around and just sort of like, staring out the window, wishing you had more to do.
Yeah, that's
folks.
Exactly it.
The host of this podcast basically has not slept for the last 5 days, and he will be embarrassed that I'm saying that. But I don't understand how. And it, like, here you are doing a podcast. You should be asleep in bed right now. Anyway, sorry, I'm turning into your surrogate mother. So, yes, Summer Bennett is a heavy duty artist already. Summer is Summer 15?
15 years old. Yep.
She's a young human being in the world of people doing this professionally. So Ryan reached out. I'm referring to you in the third person, like you're not, like I'm not looking at you right now. Ryan reached out to me and said, there's somebody really special. You got to hear some of her music. And he sent a couple songs, and it took me a while, I think maybe a week or two, before I could sit down and listen to it. I have a lot of children, and when I'm in front of speakers, like I am right now, you can't see on the camera, but because they're behind the camera, there's a wall of, well, I'll just show you what's behind here.
There you go. Inside the Greg Wells home studio.
Yeah. No shortage of speakers in the studio. So, but when I'm in front of those speakers, I got to work on the music that I'm paid to work on. Like, I can't sit around and just listen to music that's sent to me. If I did that, it would be hard to get to work. So my wife is from Sweden, and I was taking her and a lot of our kids to the Los Angeles airport because they were going to, I think they were going to Sweden. I think that's what was happening. And I didn't go. This was over Christmas this year. And actually for the last couple of years, I have not done the Christmas trip to Sweden because it's a 9-hour time change from Los Angeles. It's a punch in the face. It's also dark 20 hours a day at Christmas time in Sweden. It's really hard to adjust to. And by the time I adjust and I come back here, I'm upside down, and I usually get sick when I'm there. I love everybody there. But it's what I do is I spend a long time there in the summer. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. So I took them to the airport. I dropped them off, and I'm driving back home by myself, and I'm thinking, now's a good time for me to listen to that music that Ryan sent. So I put it on, and at this point, like, I'm an old man. I've been in music professionally for a long, long, long time, and once I started working with singers and bands that other people had heard of, then I started getting sent music to people were sending me stuff to ask for help, or ask to get a record deal, or asked if I could get their song on somebody else's record. And I used to listen to everything, and then it just became too much, and I got very selective with what I was listening to. And unfortunately, most of what gets sent doesn't blow me away, and the stuff that blows me away is really, really, really rare. And I suppose that's a good thing. It's, it really makes the stuff that is special, it really makes it stand out. So I put on the first song, Car Sick. And I was playing it, and I'm driving in my car, and I wasn't playing it that loud because I didn't, if I hated it, I didn't know what I was about to hear. So I'm very sensitive. I don't watch TV. I'm like really careful with what I let in. I'm playing it kind of low. And I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, oh, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And then the vocal comes in, and I'm listening to the first verse. I'm thinking, that's really interesting. Nice choices. That's cool. And then the first chorus starts, and I'm hearing some, like, just, I realize, like, oh, this is definitely many cuts above the normal thing that I would hear on a music submission to me. And then I hear a few choices where it goes from like a minor chord to a major chord very quickly, and then the kind of thing that you would hear Paul McCartney kind of fearlessly do. He does that in his writing. He'll just jump around from major to minor and back to minor, and then 7 beats later go back to the major or change keys. And there's a fearlessness in Summer's writing that it blows me away. And I actually started thinking to myself, am I really hearing what I think I'm hearing? That was my reaction. Like, is this really happening? And I reached for the volume and turned it up, and then went back to the beginning of the song and played it again, and really played it loud. and I was just dumbfounded. I was blown away. I felt like I was listening to, like, for anyone that's old enough to know who Kate Bush is. Well, now the whole world knows who Kate Bush is because of Stranger Things, which is an amazing little story. But Kate Bush, similar vibe. Kate Bush was a prodigious teenager who wrote really amazing music, really original sounding music. There's something about what Summer's doing that reminds me of what Kate did around the same age, and actually for Kate's whole career. Anyway, just the song killed me, and I wound up listening to it 3 times. And I realized, wow, this is somebody who not only has a real gift in an uncommon way, but also really has clearly spent time crafting that gift. It's one thing to have a natural aptitude for playing soccer or playing a guitar or writing a song or doing public speaking or understanding how to take apart a radio and put it back together again. Like, there's different things that, or doing math. Like, all of us have like shorter bridges to some of these points. For me, it's music. I can't do math at all. I can't really, frankly, do much else. But not everyone then applies that same sort of like, I'm going to like strengthen the muscle of that thing that you find a little easier. And I could tell that she had been doing that. So I think I reached out to you, Ryan, and it's just like, this is blowing me away, like really blowing me away. Do you remember what I said?
Well, you said you said exactly what you just said. You told me, you're like, am I actually hearing this, or is just something? Am I imagining what I'm hearing? And you made the comment that you almost went off the road. And I laughed to myself because I was like, today we almost killed a Hollywood record producer. You know what I mean? It was, It was, and then of course you went into the litany of questions that you asked me questions which I had already told you the answers to, because I think you were still in that disbelief stage. You're like, so this girl's from Newfoundland? I'm like, yes. And she's only 15 years old? Yes. And this is like her first real release? Yes. And, yeah, it was, and I'm not shocked, because when I heard the song for the first time, I was in exactly the same kind of disbelief, because like her the whole presentation, the whole everything is it's a full package. Like the whole thing is just amazing, and that's exactly what I spoke when we chatted that day. That's what I mentioned was choices. The choices that she makes in her music, lyrically and technically, is just world class by my standard anyway. It's so good.
There's some, and like the artist Lorde, it reminds me of that too. A friend of mine is the one that kind of discovered Lorde, flew to, where's Lorde from? New Zealand, I think, maybe. My friend Jason Flom, who's a American record executive, he flew to her home and like was sitting in her bedroom listening to the demo of Royals from her laptop, and just thought, he had a similar reaction to what I had listening to Carsick, just like, I can't believe what I'm hearing. And he signed her on the spot, and the rest is history. But so then she sent me some more music, and you and I got on a Zoom with Summer and her dad James, and just talked about stuff, and found out that she'd been writing songs since she was 7 years old. I have not met a lot of people that have been writing songs since they were 7. I certainly wasn't, and just continued to be more blown away. She sent me a few more new songs that she's working on. There is one song in particular, I don't think I'm letting a cat out of the bag, but the title of the song is Acidic, and it just blows me out of the water. It blows me away, and I, as I know it does for you too, Ryan, and I played it for my wife Nina, and my wife Nina Woodford is an incredibly successful songwriter from Sweden, who has worked with, like, she was one of the biggest songwriters in Europe before she moved to LA so we could be together over 10 years ago. And she's worked with all kinds of people, like loads and loads and loads of people, big stars, and she's the real deal. And I said, can you just listen to something for me? Because I think this is pretty amazing. I want to get your take on it. And I just played this demo. This is a really bare bones demo, right? It's just Summer and a fake, computer piano. That's it. I don't think anything's dressed up. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. It's just a scratch demo. That's it.
Yeah, it's a piano vocal, super homemade sounding demo, as it should be. And I played it for Nina, and I could tell immediately was like into it and grooving to it. And, and by the way, Nina heard like the music that she grew up on was not entirely R&B, but it was mostly R&B. Nina's half black, and like grew up listening to a kind of music that I did not grow up listening to in Peterborough, Ontario. She's got a whole other set of cultural references and her internal repertoire, like the playlist that we play at home that she is from her childhood is like half of them are songs I hadn't heard before. So she's listening with a different set of ears, which of course is why I played it for her, because I wanted to see what her reaction would be. And she's like, this is amazing. And when we got to the end of the song, she said, that person is really something special. There's a soulfulness to what Summer's doing, and that's really remarkable. But also through all this intelligence in her writing and expressiveness and deep musicality, the way that Summer presents it, none of it feels like muscle flexing. It feels very like, I'm just presenting this idea, I'm just offering it up. This is how I feel. It's almost like, what do you think? It's very gentle the way that she puts it forward, and that makes it even more appealing to me. It kind of like creates a vacuum. It kind of pulls the listener in. It's not like, and then sometimes you kind of want to be clubbed over the head, but there's something about what she does. It's so phenomenal, and somehow she's able to also, like, I feel like I'm being pulled in toward it. Like, come here, listen closer. She's really special, and I'm so grateful, Ryan, that you put her in front of me, that you found her, and you're like, this would be incredible if she has any interest in being on Silly Cove Records. And I'm so excited to say that she does, and she is, and we're going to make an album together.
Yeah, it's funny too, because leading up to that Zoom call, of course, because it came together really quickly, because you were, and I told this to, I think I was chatting with Rhoda Bennett or Jeremy, one of our board members not long ago. I said, I haven't heard Greg that excited about something since we started this project. Everything we're doing is exciting, man, and you're always excited because, I mean, this is all a passion project. But like, you were visibly excited about this girl's music. You're like, hey, we need to have a Zoom call, and can we do it like now, or can we do it like? I was like, yeah, well, I'll reach out and see. So we pulled it together rather quickly, and we tried to play it incredibly cool, because I was excited as well, and I know Summer was. She told me after the fact that she was, out of her mind, excited to for the opportunity to talk to you and I about her music, and talk about her first album and what she'd like for it to look like and what her influences are, and all. We had all those discussions, but trying to play it incredibly cool. But we're like, let's make a record here. Let's do this. And the funny thing about this whole thing is, when you approached me about Silly Cove Records and being part of it, I thought, yeah, excellent. You gave me the pitch of, here's what I want to do, and here's what I'd like for it to be. And like, again, like I always tell everyone, it's an ever evolving project, because where what it set out to be and what it is currently already is somewhat obscure. And I can't imagine that changing. It's just going to continue to evolve how we see it. But this project was never designed to create a star, but like, sometimes when you hear something for the first time, like, you can't help but wonder, this has a real shot at her making a very lengthy and successful career for herself. And again, that's not what Silly Cove Records was designed to do at all. We're just going to give her a boost in the right direction, obviously. But again, like, when you hear something of that quality, well, I mean, it goes back to as well, like, I mean, that was the first song. And after we had our Zoom meeting with her, she had just released her second song, which was a song called Rust. and completely different vibe than Carsick. Carsick, I don't know, it's a little more on the leans a little bit more pop than what Rust does. Rust is a little bit of a, and she explained to me the song, and I'll get her to do that on the podcast here in the coming weeks. But she explained, it was she wrote the song based on her experiences during the pandemic and feeling like she lost time and losing part of her childhood because she didn't get the experiences that she should have at that age. And listening to her explain to me why I like the song, basically, because I was just enamored by the lyric, like, and this is no knock on Carsick, but lyrically, the song Rust is like up here in my book of quality songwriting. I just absolutely love it. I listen to it almost every day because it's now on my playlist, and then of course today she rolled out her third single, which would be her last one prior to working with us at Silly Cove Records, called Sirens. And again, complete hard right as to how it feels, how it presents. It still has that summer vibe. Trademark. Anyway, so it still has that vibe, but again, complete hard left, hard right from her previous song Rust and the one before that, which was Carsick, and that is what impresses me. I don't know if it impresses me the most. Everything about this girl impresses me, but like the instant identifiability of her voice, first note, first vocal, I know it's Summer Bennett. That's the thing that stands out to me, and that's what I always love about singers. I mean, I can sing, you can sing, we can all sing. Anybody who wants to open their mouth and sing can sing, but some people, it's just on that very first note who it is and what they're about, and that's how it is for me with Summer. Is that she's instantly identifiable. Yeah. So again,
and as a writer too.
Yeah.
Her voice as a writer, to me, it has that same fingerprint,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I liked your description of it pulling you in, because I think that's why I can't stop listening to the stuff, is because every time I listen to it, I hear something different, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's multi-layered. There's a lot packed into, there's a lot to unpack, as people like to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with Silly Cove Records, like my initial little light bulb of like what I think I would like it to be, what I do want it to be, and what I did want it to be in its inception, was to document like something special, something local, and something unique, made by musicians living, not just specifically in Winterton where Trinity Hall is, but definitely like in that area, I mean, frankly, let's just extend it to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
But like, I want it to be stuff that doesn't sound like it's competing with like the Spotify global top, pop chart. That's what I spend the rest of my career doing, and the people that I work with, that's all they want to do, and I don't want to do that. I want to document, and for instance, Courtney Wick's beautiful album, which we are on the precipice of releasing the entire thing, is exactly what I was hoping for. Traditional music presented by someone who literally grew up down the road from St. Luke's Anglican Church, which is what Trinity Hall was, frankly still is. A documentation of like a tradition and the music that people have grown up with, and that her parents grew up with, and that their parents grew up with, some of the songs. But it is really quickly kind of like spreading its wings, its tentacles, its whatever, the roots of the tree are kind of, and it all is still making sense to me. Like, Jeremy's record, which we are about to launch into in a couple of months, is could not sound more different than the album that we made with Courtney. It's going to be, it's basically like aggressive, like modern punk rock music. And I hope that Trinity Hall is still standing after we're done with it. I think it can withstand the volume, the sound pressure. But again, that's a true thing. And he's not making traditional music, but he's very influenced by all that stuff. And then Summer, again, is like she's making a very unique thing. I don't think she's trying to write hit songs. I think she's just writing what comes out of her, what she feels. It's almost like reading her journal. And as I feel like I've probably talked about too much already in a previous podcast with you, but the business model of Silly Cove Records, I think is a really beautiful thing where anyone that signs with Silly Cove Records is only on the hook for that one album. So, you know, like for instance, Summer will make her next album with me producing it and you know, at no cost to her. And then after that, she's free to do whatever she wants. She can make another album with us. She can go shop a record deal, or she can quit music or whatever. Like whatever she wants to do, it's fine. So we're not like clutching on to anyone. And also the profit split. If there's any money made, 50% straight down the middle, 50% of whatever money shows up goes to the artist or the band that's signed. They can do whatever they want with it. The other 50% goes to the record label, and then within the board of Trinity Hall, we're going to figure out what local cause or causes should get it. It goes straight into the community. It doesn't go into any of our pockets. We're never going to see a penny of it. It's just a beautiful thing, you know. So I think it's really cool of Summer and Jeremy and Courtney and anyone else that's going to link arms with us on the record label to want to do that, like to make music for the right reasons, but also this is all about raising money for the local community.
Yep.
And no one's pocket lining here.
That was the attractiveness of the whole thing to me. I mean, obviously I was looking forward to working with you and picking your brain and all that good stuff, because I mean, I'm a hobby musician myself. I mean, party guitar type stuff, but just grew up loving it. And I've always had an ear for music and selling vinyl records and all that good stuff, everything, all my little hobbies in and around the music scene. So like, you know, the project in itself was attractive, but the model around what Silly Cove Records has to offer in Newfoundland and Labrador, and I'm not just from the profit sharing thing, is that what I really like about the project is the opportunity to showcase artists in a different place for different people. At Trinity Hall, if it so chooses to be so, who knows where else we might set up a show for our artists when things go, but also the opportunity to bring some artists to Newfoundland who otherwise probably wouldn't have come. Because the one other thing that we're working on, which again I won't disclose any details because it may never happen, and we're hoping it does, but we have invited an artist to record with Silly Cove Records who's actually from Cape Breton, and again, very very little known about that artist or the artists, I should say. There's been some production done on their own accord, of course, but we've offered them the opportunity to come and record some music at Trinity Hall and play for the locals and give the spin on their music to Newfoundland and Labrador and help grow how we do things here. So there's a lot. Again, you talk about a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack at Silly Cove Records too, because we really don't know what we're doing. Is the charm of it all, I guess.
Well, there's a nice like. Let me just talk about what happened yesterday here in Los Angeles. So Walter Tucker, who just recovered from a successful quadruple bypass operation, hooray, 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 hooray! It's amazing, excellent news. Walter donated a gorgeous 7-foot grand piano, Heinzman grand piano, to Trinity Hall. And it's in great condition. I asked if he had any interest in donating a piano, and less than 24 hours later, the deal was closed. He found the piano himself. He found the listing himself. I didn't point him toward any listing. He did it all himself from his hospital bed in Carbonear before he was waiting to go into St. John's for the surgery. He did it all from his hospital bed. So there's that, and that's now at Trinity Hall. I can't wait to hear it, you know. And there's because I'm making records, I work with a lot of companies that make this gear, microphones and speakers and, you know, equipment to record things and instruments. And I reached out to one of my favorite companies. They're called Royer, Royer, and they make a type of, those old RCA microphones. They look like big bricks. You see them on the old black and white TV shows. They're much bigger than the mic you're talking on. They look like they're huge. You see them on the old talk shows sitting on the desk. Those are all old RCA 44 mics, they're called, and they're ribbon microphones. It's a different kind of microphone technology. But there's something about ribbon mics that sound really, really great. They sound really natural. And there's a few companies today that make new versions of that. Royer has been making ribbon microphones for over 20 years, making them really successfully. They make gorgeous, gorgeous, really high-end products. They make it all by hand here in Burbank, California. And I wrote to them and said, I told them all about Trinity Hall. I told them about Silly Cove Records, told them about the profit split and how it's all designed to raise money for the local community. Would you guys, here's my dream. If you could donate some microphones, here's my dream wish list. And I know I'm asking for too much, so I would take anything that you can do. They gave me everything I asked for. It's about $15,000 US worth of microphones. They're like, come pick it up. It's ready. So I drove to Burbank yesterday and got a tour of the factory. I posted about it on Instagram, the tour. I didn't mention about the donation, but they donated like their top of the line microphones. And so I'm bringing that with me when I come in May. I'm going to leave them there permanently. That will give us the ability to not just record the artists that we're working with, but any concert that rolls through, whether it's a choir that wants to get up and even just sing 3 songs, we will have microphones in place, ready to go to record a pretty like world-class sound just by hitting record. That's so exciting, I mean, we could even, we have the technology now where I can even operate that from Los Angeles remotely. And I probably don't need to, I think we're going to get it set up to where, this is like plug and play, and once the computer's turned on, you could just hit record, and it's going to capture. It's like the camera's already in focus. We got it. Just go hit record and shoot the video. But we can do that with sound. So there's a lot of stuff. Like we haven't even started yet. We're not even open to the public yet.
I know, and that's the crazy thing is, and I mean we're starting a documentary about the whole project, both Trinity Hall and of course the evolution of Silly Cove Records in amongst that. There'll be that's actually interviews are starting for that, I believe, on Monday coming, a couple days time. So that's going to be in the works. That could be a year in the making, mind you, but we're going to capture the project and so people can actually see just what's going on. Because let me tell you, behind the doors of that building right now, I get over there a couple times a week. It is madness. It's insanity. The old church is being, the church itself basically untouched, but in the workings in and around it, the electrical, the plumbing, the heating, the built-on portion of the church, which everyone calls the annex, is getting a full overhaul. Bathrooms, kitchen. We're creating, which again wasn't in the original plan, but again with the evolution of all this, hey, here we are. We're going to be putting in an actual permanent recording studio control room in that building where a producer can come in, a sound engineer can come in, artists can come in, and everything is ready to rock and roll, and pardon the pun, but it's ready to go. And I mean, it's an incredibly exciting project, and it's on the backs too of some great help that we're receiving from our contractors and our volunteers. So there's a story to be told here, which it's a real shame the CBC is not more akin to telling great stories, because it is fantastic what's happening over there now. Again, with these donations, I mean, you look at this piano. I can't wait to hear you play it. We got to get it in position, obviously, and get it all set up. We've got a pipe organ coming from St. John's Monday as well.
The Masonic Hall in St. John's, Morgan and Duncan McRae bought the Masonic Hall a few years ago. They're refurbishing it. They tried to sell the beautiful old 1800s pipe organ that was from England. Tried to sell it. That's a hard thing to sell, and it would require at minimum about $150,000 US of refurbishment just to get to where the whole thing worked properly. So it's a big ask for a seller, and they couldn't find anyone to sell it. So somehow through Ann Walker, word got to them that Crazy Me was looking to put an organ in Trinity Hall. And I'd been talking to Italian organ companies. I'd been scouring all the listings online of, organs for sale, not just in Newfoundland, but like all over Canada and the States.
You had me talking to carpenters about building an organ. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Oh yeah. I've been looking at all kinds of options. And then I heard about that. And at first I thought, I don't know if that's going to work. And I honestly, no, actually, I do know it's going to work. We're just going to have to we're going to have to make it fit because it's a smaller space in Trinity Hall. But yes, there's a insane organ showing up on Monday and being moved into the hall. And the plan is, it is going to happen. I don't think we're going to be ready for the grand opening in May. The organ will be there physically. You can see it, but it's not going to be playable at that point. And that's okay. It's too much to get together between now. It's like we only have 2 months to make it work, and we need more than that because I really am going to retrofit it. But I'm going to retrofit it so that it looks exactly like it did in the Masonic Hall. It's beautiful, all this amazing old woodwork, and it looks just stunning. But sonically, what you're going to hear, it's going to sound like we're in a European cathedral. It's hard to explain. And I know that sounds too good to be true, but that's why I'm so excited about it, because I have a version of it in my home here. I have a pipe organ that was taken out of a church in Orange County, and then we retrofitted it to become a digital pipe organ, which sounds ugly and scary, but the technology is so good today that with the right speakers, you sound like you're in a cathedral. It's incredible, and it's really gorgeous sounding. It's amazing. And I grew up playing real pipe organs in real big churches. It's the same feeling. So there's that happening. We got that grand piano now that opens us up to a whole other world of a kind of music that can come through Trinity Hall. We can have classical music concerts there. We can have chamber music festivals there. We can do all kinds of stuff there. Choir festivals. We're going to have a choir perform from Toronto. They're coming in July, I think, on Canada Day. They reached out to us. We didn't source it, And again, like I said a few minutes ago, we're not even open to the public yet. But yes, as Ryan said, we've gone a bit nuts, and I'm upgrading the electrical, and we got a new range, and we're tweaking out the bathrooms, and Ryan had an idea of turning the church office into a control room for the studio, and that was great, and it makes perfect sense. It's really going to be a phenomenal facility, while still keeping the church sanctuary building looking basically exactly like it always did. We had to modify the stage area a bit because it just didn't make sense as a music venue to keep it the way that it was. It still pretty much looks the same, but there's just a few alterations. But in terms of the building itself, it's, it looks the same. The church pews are there. I can't wait for people to see it. And by the way, the grand opening is May 19th, Friday, May 19th.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. Well, not here first. I guess we already announced that a while back, because that was always our tentative date was the May 24th weekend, the long weekend in May. We're in our planning process for that now, but it's going to be a day-long event, starting in the afternoon and running until after supper. There'll be some food and all kinds of good stuff, and no cost as well. If anybody from anywhere drop in anytime. There'll be music all day, locals, and some of our artists I've already said, without even asking, the artists that are involved with Silly Cove Records say, no, I want to come, I want to play, and I want to be involved in this. I've already heard from all of them. So
that's awesome.
And they're and that's what this project is all about. The Beatles said it best. I get by with a little help from my friends. I've always loved that song because it's one of those lyrics that just rings so true. And with projects like this, when you're dealing with so many different artistic people with so many different skill sets, when you start pulling that together, holy cow, the stuff that the ideas that are getting floated around, the artists who are helping each other out, whether it be on the music production side of things or the video production side of things or whatever it might be, it's inspiring. It's inspiring on any level for anyone. So no, I'm real pumped
So
for
exciting.
May. Yeah.
It's so exciting, and it's so nuts to think that that you and I and Rhoda and Anne and Mandy and Jeremy, like that we all just met last summer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't envision talking to you nearly as much as I do. Actually, I didn't envision talking to you at all. To be completely honest, I said, "I'll sign up. I'll help this guy out. If he needs something, I'm sure he'll let me know. Otherwise, I'll use the skill set that I have to best suit the project." But it's to say that this has been a full team effort. That would be the understatement of the century. Every day, the group chat is going, and this is happening, that's happening, because again, in dreamy dream world, when Greg woke up, and you heard the story last time, and he had this vision of buying a church in somewhere obscure, and it all came to be. That's a dream. Now, putting that dream into action requires permits and building licenses and codes and all this boring stuff that I'm not even going to waste your time talking about on a podcast. But the amount of work that's been taken on to get this building to an accessible level, an acceptable level, meeting fire codes, meeting all the regulations that we need as a commercial, but it's no longer a church. Churches for a long time, even currently, a lot of things get swept under the rug because they can't afford to do this stuff, even if they were told to. So, they get grandfathered through because of what it is. But the minute it changes hands and becomes a commercial entity, which is what this is now, it's owned by a private person. It's no longer a church. We have to comply with everything everybody else does for the most part, unless we're given an exemption based on something. And that is where our volunteers are truly shining. And we haven't even gotten into the whole, we're just trying to get this place open and ready for the public to see it and show it off and be proud of it. After that is when the real work begins of, making this place everything that we dream it can be, with people coming and using it on the daily, and workshops and clinics and all these different things, getting youth out and involved and getting them into music. So there's a next generation to carry on what we've started, No, it's my mind starts to galaxy brain when I start thinking about the whole thing, right?
And my idea of wanting to do workshops and clinics with people coming in from wherever, I still think there's a way. I don't know how to do it, but I feel like there's a way to get arts funding to pay for the clinicians to come in and do a thing. And then I also want there to be a way for people that want to attend a thing like that to not have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There's a will, there's a way. I think with that, I really think that it's going to be possible, and maybe in some, I have no idea. But if the funding is not there from a government standpoint, or from Arts and L or Music and L or whatever the governing body is for the particular project we're looking at, maybe it's something that we have to fundraise and fund ourselves. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of having this.
Oh
building.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Sure, that's great.
Having this building, having this equipment that's all been generously donated. Let's use that to make some money, and then spend that money on bringing in the big shots. You know what I mean? To help and grow the industry. So there's many ways to skin a cat. Certainly when you have people with the skill sets that we have on our team. So I'm all in.
If anybody from Air Canada is watching this, please open up the St. John's to Europe flights again. That would be very helpful, because a lot of the people that I want to bring are on that side of the pond. And selfishly, I want to make that flight too.
That was a great flight. Super convenient.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're almost halfway there from St. John's. Why not? I don't know.
Funny story. 18 years old. The very first flight I was ever on. I was never on a plane before. My family didn't vacation per se. My dad worked like I do. He was never home, and when he was, he was busy, trying to maintain a home. We didn't do any amount of traveling, or the Florida vacations, or the European trips, or any of that stuff that you see people doing nowadays. We went to Central Newfoundland once, on a trip to Splash and Putt when I was a kid, and it was a great time and everything else. And I remember it fondly, and I guess that's the reason. But the first time I was ever on a plane, I was, as you know, I was a nautical officer and working on ships around the world. But in training for that, I had to go and do cadet time. I spent over a year at sea, straight almost, 12 months. Yeah, I'll tell you about that sometimes. I got a lot of good stories from that, sketchy stuff. But in doing so, the very first job I ever got as a navigation cadet, I had to get on a plane in St. John's, and it was the St. John's to Europe flight. I flew to Heathrow and got off the plane, and I was in Terminal 1 and had to find my way to Terminal 3. And the little newfie boy stepping off the plane in Heathrow was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. So
it's a big airport.
Yay, yeah. It certainly was. Well, I mean, again, we couldn't figure out the shuttle system, so we ended up almost running the entire way from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3. Me and my buddy from St. Anthony, who, same thing. I think he flew from Deer Lake to St. John's at one point. But other than that, it was an interesting trip. But yeah, if that flight was available or something similar, would make life a lot easier on everybody. But in any case, I think this actually ran a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and that's pretty well status quo for me and you. That doesn't seem to... Anyway.
My fault.
Yeah, well, I'm no help. But anyway, it's always great to chat with you again, Greg. Certainly when we can share our conversations with the public and let them inside our little caveat that we've created, and that hopefully everyone will see a lot more of it. Which is why I'm really proud of this podcast. It's gotten a lot of great reviews as well. A lot of people are really enjoying the content and love hearing from you and from the artists. I've got a couple more podcasts in the works. We've got Justin Fancy, who's going to be joining me next week to chat country music and the influences in and around Newfoundland and Labrador. And we've also got Jeremy Harnham again, one of our recording artists, who's going to be joining me for an episode as well. So lots to come.
Fantastic.
Yeah, stay tuned, guys. If you like the podcast, hit the subscribe button. We're online visually. You can see my beautiful face and Greg's beautiful face on our YouTube channel, but you can also listen to the podcast. The audio version is available on Spotify, Google Music, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, all of the above. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can get the Downey's Bank podcast. So I'm not going to keep you, Greg. Appreciate you sharing the bench at Downey's Bank for another chat, and I'm sure we'll be talking again real soon.
I have one word for you: melatonin.
Yeah, turkey dinner. I'd rather that.
Sure, anyway, tryptophan works too. Okay.
Yeah, indeedy. All right, man. I'll catch you later.
See you, Ryan.
Thanks.